Hello guys! Today we're making Slap House.
Don't pick up the phone, you know he's only calling cause he's drunk and alone. 2, don't let him in, you have to kick him out again. 3, don't be his friend, you know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning. And if you're under him, you ain't getting over him. I got no rules.
My longtime friend and fellow producer has just released his Serum Bank, and it's specifically targeted towards Slap House and that kind of sound, you know? And he was kind enough to send it my way, so I figured I would use it to create a Slap House track for you guys. Links to his Serum Bank will be down below, and as usual, all my social links as well as my website if you're interested in picking up some more sound banks or sample packs. Oh, and by the way, I'm doing a huge giveaway when I reach 10,000 subscribers. I'm gonna be giving away a pair of Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros, very good headphones, and I'm also gonna give away my whole arsenal of sound banks and sample packs. 50% of people aren't subscribed, so if you just went ahead and subscribed, we could hit 12k like this fast. Subscribe, please. Thank you. Alright, so I've never really been a huge fan of Slap House, but recently I've started to listen to it a little bit more, and it's kind of similar to Future House. Like, there's one type of Future House that kind of blends in with Slap House in a way, which I really like, so nice. So let's just start with this simple build-up that I made. We have a couple of loops from my Atmos sample pack. This loop has some swing on it, and there is a bunch of swing on the whole track itself. It really helps to have that little delay on some notes. It makes it a lot more groovy. And then we just have these drop claps, very simple. Moving on, we have this lead, which is a preset from Nanda's sound bank. I'll get more into the processing of the leads and the bass when we get to the drop. Next in the build-up we have the drop bass actually coming in, and it has a few automations to it. So it actually has both a high pass and a low pass filter on it right now. And it kind of comes in gradually. And it kind of just helps the listener to anticipate what's coming. It's a really nice thing to do in Slap House, where you have the drop bass actually come in the build-up. Next up in the build-up, we have this Reese bass preset. Just a really nice, solid, simple Reese bass. This bass is only used in the build-up, so I'll just show you quickly what I did for processing. I added a little bit of wave shaper to kind of give it that a little bit gritty, distorted texture. I added a tiny bit of OTT to kind of glue that together a little bit. A tiny amount of Soundgrizer to add a bit of saturation and compression, as well as some reverb to give it that airy sort of feel. Last but not least, a high pass filter that is automated here. So it takes out a lot of the low frequencies as the drop bass comes in to reintroduce some of those low frequencies. So they're kind of changing frequencies. After that, we have a vocal. In this case, it is New Rules by Dua Lipa. I just felt like I needed some vocal, and this ended up fitting pretty well, so demonetized video. Very nice. Next up we have a ton of effects. So first off we have this ambient shot, as well as this ambient shot, this drone, this clock, and some impacts and sweeps. And down here are just a ton of automations that control everything, like filters and reverb and stuff like that. We'll get into it a little bit more later.
Don't be his friend, you know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning. And if you're under him, you ain't getting over him. I got no rules.
So coming into the drop, it's a very simple drop. Slap House in itself is mostly oriented around the bass and the drums. Typically there's not a ton of elements going on. So starting from the top, as usual, we have this drum pattern. Sounds like that. All I've done is I've added a fruity compressor, which just brings out the transients of the kick a little bit more and adds a few decibels of gain, just to make sure it really punches through the mix. After that we have the lead. The lead sounds really full on its own, but it's just one preset from the Nanda Serum Bank. And the preset is this one, lead 5. And all I did inside of Serum was increase the release a little bit and increase the portamento as well. That way the notes slide a bit more between each other. This is what the preset sounds before any processing. So what I did was I added some wave shaper, quite a bit actually. A bit of OTT. Some reverb. This is kind of my standard effect chain. I always add these things, as you probably know by now. I added an EQ to remove some of the lows and increase some of the mids. And lastly, some sidechain. So it's a very simple effect chain, but it just brings the sound to life. After that, I recorded the lead and reversed it, so we have this reverse reverb effect. Now we get to the good stuff. So here is what the bass sounds like on its own. The bass consists of 3 layers. The first layer is slap 20, it sounds like this. Then we have slap 21. And last but not least, slap 4. What I did to these was I added a bit of Soundgrizer to just beef them up a little bit. Some OTT to glue all of the layers together and sort of compress it down a little bit. An EQ to remove all of the sub frequencies and some of the bass, because we're going to be adding a separate sub. I also added a limiter just to make sure I wasn't clipping, and an ozone imager to just widen the bass a little bit. This is fine since we don't have any sub frequencies on the bass. A tiny bit of reverb to just put the bass in a space. And down here we have the low pass and the high pass filter that we used during the build-up. And lastly, a kickstart. I also recorded a note of the bass and reversed it and added it to some parts of the track. It's very typical of Slap House to have the bass do these kind of reverse things. Then I added the sub bass layer. If you're on your phone, you won't be able to hear this. And this is just a preset called Sub 3, and I did absolutely nothing to it except add an EQ that looks like this. And I added sidechain as well, obviously. So far we have kind of the main elements already laid down. Oh yeah, and as you heard over here in pattern 1, we added just some claps to the drums. Just very simple claps, there's one snap and one clap. I've added those to a channel in the mixer and I've made them very, very wide, and I've also increased the highs quite a bit. That's a really good trick to just make your claps really stand out and punch through the mix and sound really bright and snappy. Before we get into the little extra effects that kind of glue the track together, I just want to show you something little I did with the vocal. So here we have the reverb of the acapella. I bring that all the way down right before the drop, and then I immediately bump it up again. I turn on the sidechain down here, and we also have a manipulator that shifts the formant of the vocal down, so it becomes darker. And over here we have 2 vocal layers, one with the formant shifted down and one just regular acapella. The formant shifting is doing some really weird stuff with the vocal. This is not a studio acapella, it's just someone that like filtered out the acapella, so it's gonna sound a little bit weird, but in the context of the whole mix, you can't really hear that, so it's okay. I shifted the formant with Manipulator, it's a great plugin. You can also use Little Alter Boy, it also has this formant knob, and I'm sure there are some free VSTs out there that do the same as well. Now here are all of the effects. Right before the drop, we have the bass that hits like this. So I just added some percussions from my sample pack to sort of assist the bass. It's just there to like make the bass more punchy, more, yeah. And right when the drop hits, we have a shot of white noise. It just has a little bit of reverb on it to kind of give it a little tail, as well as a couple of layers of brass shots. What I did to all of them was I added a bit of OTT to glue them together a little bit. I added an EQ to take out all of the unnecessary sub frequencies. And I also added a bit of reverb to kind of give it that tail. Coming into the second part of the drop, I added a bit more drums to it. We just have a ride, a top loop, and some extra hi-hats.
Don't pick up the phone, you know he's only calling cause he's drunk and alone. 2, don't let him in, you have to kick him out again. 3, don't be his friend, you know you're gonna wake up in his bed in the morning. And if you're under him, you ain't getting over him. I got no
So yeah, that's how to make Slap House. Go check out the links in the description if you're interested in getting any of these sounds. As most of you know, I'm also coming out with my Serum preset pack soon, but there's not gonna be any Slap House sounds in that. It's more geared towards future house, future bounce, and progressive house. But yeah, stay tuned for that. It's gonna be out in a few weeks. And I also have some new music coming out. So yeah, go follow me on Instagram and all that good stuff so you stay updated about the track. And definitely make sure to check it out when it's released next week on October 30th. And yeah, that's all I had for today. Don't forget to subscribe for the 10K giveaway. My goal is to hit 10,000 subscribers before next year, so if you guys could help me realize that dream, I will be forever grateful. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you out there. I'll catch you in the next video, and yeah, bye bye.